Nobody has changed women's college basketball more than Caitlin Clark. She has put eyes on the game like we've never seen before. And finally, people are watching and care about women's basketball, as they should. Girls run the world. Girls. Nobody has scored more points in Division I basketball ever than Caitlin Clark. She just won National Player of the Year for the second straight season and is one of, if not the greatest player in the history of the sport. The simple reality is, women's basketball will never be the same thanks to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark was born in Des Moines, Iowa on January 22nd, 2002. That's a lot of twos, hence why she wears 22. Clark started playing basketball when she was 5 years old, and she actually had to play in boys rec leagues because her dad couldn't find any girls leagues for her age. She eventually did play in girls leagues and was playing well ahead of her own age group at just 13 years old. Clark loved Maya Moore growing up. She played for the Minnesota Lynx, which was the closest team to Clark growing up. She also liked Harrison Barnes and even rooted for UNC because of him. Barnes is from Ames, Iowa, so it's not a super random player, I promise. Both of them played for AAU, All Iowa Attack, where Clark played with Ashley Jones, who's now with the Phoenix Mercury after playing at rival Iowa State. Clark helped All Iowa Attack to a Nike Youth Basketball League championship after her sophomore year of high school, when she scored 23 points in the final. Clark also won 3 gold medals with the United States, 2017 Under-16 Championship, and both the 2019 and 2021 Under-19 World Cups. Caitlin Clark has really just had success at every level, no matter what. And no surprise here, but it didn't take her very long to pick up traction as a good recruit. Caitlin Clark got her first letter of interest in 7th grade from Missouri State, and by her sophomore year of high school, she was ranked the #1 player in the 2020 class. Clark played 4 seasons of varsity ball in high school at Dowling Catholic for Kristen Meyer. In addition to basketball, she actually played soccer for 2 years as well, and she had 23 goals as a freshman. On the court, Clark had a good season with 15.3 points per game and just continued to get better, as you'd expect. She had 27.1 points the next season and helped Dowling Catholic make the Class 5A quarterfinals and was named Central Iowa Metro Player of the Year. She was already showing a ton of potential, and she just wouldn't stop getting better. Her junior season was just ridiculous. She had a 60-point game, set the state single-game record for threes with 13, and had a Class 5A record 42 points in the state tournament. Dowling Catholic lost in the 5A semifinals, and Caitlin Clark finished the season averaging 32.6 points per game en route to being named Iowa Gatorade Player of the Year. Somehow, she improved with 33.4 points per game as a senior and made it all the way to the 5A regional final, but lost. She must hate championship games. Still, she was dominant again and was Gatorade Player of the Year and Miss Iowa basketball. She was selected to play in both the McDonald's All-American game and the Jordan Brand Classic, but they both didn't actually happen because of COVID. Caitlin Clark was a beast in high school. No surprise there, but somehow she didn't end up the best recruit in her class. Clark actually fell in recruiting rankings throughout her junior and senior seasons in high school. Still, she was a 5-star recruit, but she fell from 1st to 4th in her class. And it's really hard to say that the scouts were wrong when you look back at the class. The 3 players ahead of her, Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, and Cameron Brink. There weren't exactly any misses there. The 2020 class is absolutely insane, and it's safe to say that Clark still worked out very well. You probably know the story about how Caitlin Clark wanted to go to UConn, but obviously she didn't. UConn and Gino Auriemma, they already had Paige Beckers committed. So it just wasn't completely fair, and it didn't make sense to go after Clark with Paige Beckers already coming to UConn. Clark's family wanted her to go to Notre Dame, and she made a verbal commitment to play for them with head coach Muffet McGraw, but she never signed her NLI and instead decided to commit to Lisa Bluter at Iowa. Luckily, she got to start off the jump due to Kathleen Doyle leaving for the WNBA after winning Big Ten Player of the year. I think one of the things that makes Caitlin Clark even more likable is that she stayed home and went to Iowa. That's so cool, and now she's a local legend forever. Caitlin Clark hit the ground running at Iowa and just never stopped. In her collegiate debut, she put up 27 points and 8 rebounds against Northern Iowa. She followed it up with a 30-point double-double against Drake. It took her less than a month in college to record her first triple-double and just kept rolling. Her season high was 39 points, which came against Nebraska. Without any doubt, she was the unanimous Big Ten Freshman of the Year and was first team All Big Ten. She was already making a huge impact in Iowa City. Iowa made it to the Big Ten Tournament Finals and made it all the way to the Sweet 16 after wins over Central Michigan and Kentucky before losing to 1 seed UConn and Paige Beckers as Clark scored 21 points. Clark was the first freshman to win the Dawn Staley Award, given to the best point guard in the country, and shared some freshman awards with Paige Beckers. Clark led the country with 26.6 points and had 7.1 assists and 5.9 rebounds. Of course, she led the country in scoring as a freshman, because of course she did. And by the way, that was her worst point average of her entire collegiate career. Caitlin Clark simply just got better each season. Her sophomore year, she passed Kelsey Mitchell as the fastest player to reach 1,000 points in the Big Ten after a 44-point game against Evansville. In early January, she had back-to-back triple-doubles against Nebraska and Minnesota. She constantly had big games, none as big as a 46-point performance in a loss to Michigan. 25 of those points came in the fourth quarter. She led Iowa to a share of the Big Ten Conference title, and of course, Caitlin was the Big Ten Player of the Year. She followed it up by being named the most outstanding player of the Big Ten tournament that Iowa won, but they didn't last very long in the NCAA tournament. Iowa got knocked off by 10 seed Creighton as Clark had just 15 points, a season low. It wasn't the end of the season they hoped for, but it was still a magical year and showed so much promise. Clark averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. She led the country in points, free throws, triple doubles. Caitlin Clark then came into her junior season with some very high expectations, as you'd expect. She hit a buzzer-beating 3 to beat number 2 Indiana. That was a big signature moment. She was the Big Ten Player of the Year again, won the Big Ten tournament again. Iowa was the 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, and anyone who didn't know who Caitlin Clark was before the tournament was about to know her name. Iowa beat Southeastern Louisiana, Georgia, and Colorado to make the Elite 8. Then Caitlin Clark dropped 41 on Haley Van Lith and Louisville to make the Final Four and have to face off against undefeated South Carolina, and Iowa did the unthinkable. They beat Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks somehow, some way. That took them to the national championship, where they had to face LSU, who had just knocked off my Hokies in the Final Four. LSU and Angel Reese had their way, and Reese made that famous "you can't see me" gesture to Caitlin Clark, something Clark did in the direction of Van Lith 2 games prior. LSU won 102-85, ending Iowa's magical season. It didn't end with a ring, but Caitlin Clark put the country on notice, at least those who didn't know her greatness already. She finished the year with 27.8 points and 8.6 assists per game. All eyes were on Caitlin Clark this past season, with the expectation that she could become the all-time leader in points in NCAA history, and she did just that, not only passing Kelsey Plum, but also Pistol Pete Maravich. Clark did everything you'd expect. She won the Wooden Award, was the AP Player of the Year for the second straight season. Iowa made it back to the Elite 8 after wins against Holy Cross, West Virginia, and Colorado. And then Iowa had a chance at revenge. LSU and the Elite 8, and Iowa got it. They beat LSU and followed it up with a nail-biter, instant classic over UConn by 2 points. Those were 2 of the most watched women's basketball games ever. Of course, then South Carolina got their revenge on Iowa. Iowa lost in the national championship. Again, still, it was an incredible year for Caitlin Clark, averaging 31.6 points and 8.9 assists. It was an incredible, magical career, and it will always be remembered what she accomplished under Lisa Bluter alongside Molly Davis, Kate Martin, and Gabby Marshall. Now, it's time for Caitlin to make the jump to the pros. And if you plan on seeing the Indiana Fever soon, get tickets now. Everyone wants to see Caitlin Clark, the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA Draft.